to the Life is an Escape Room podcast, where learning about yourself is an adventure. Here's your hosts, the Eanes escapeletes, Chris and Jeff.
Hello, fellow escapeletes. Welcome to the Life is an Escape Room podcast. I'm Chris.
And I'm Jeff.
And we're so glad you joined us today. For today's topic, we are talking about communication with Brandon and Cici.
Hi, guys.
Hey, everybody.
Welcome. Welcome, Brandon and Cici.
Thanks for having us.
And before we jump in, can you give us a little bit about your background for our listeners and viewers?
Yeah, sure. We are co-founders of Escape the Rumors, which is a blog that tries to cover a good amount of content from all over the world, including escape rooms, at-home games, online games, and also immersive experiences. So do we also have to give our personal background?
Of whatever you would like.
Okay.
Well, it's top secret information, so we can't really.
Yeah. Well, that is obviously not our real job. I'm a real estate agent that services New York and New Jersey for over, I think, 15 plus years now. And, coming from the service industry, also the escape room really does go into like a big part of that customer service based industry as well. So we'll definitely talk more about that.
Yeah. And I have my own hip hop dance company, which is not really focused just on hip hop, but it's more of a concierge service for private sessions, for clientele, for any needs in terms of for dancing, for anything that requires some one-on-one or private group event type of experience. And I also have a talent management company.
Nice.
Wow.
I love it.
Which also crosses over with entertainment. So.
Yes. Yeah,
Right.
it does. Well, and I love how we all come together with our love of escape rooms, right? We all have different day jobs, but our love of escape rooms brings us together, essentially. And also what I love is it informs our day jobs, right? The experiences that we have in those escape rooms informs our day jobs. And our topic for today is communication and relationship first when we're communicating, especially when it's, like us couples going through and doing escape rooms. I mean, it can start a whole thing, can't it? So can you share just a little bit? We'll just start off with a little bit about your experiences with each other and communicating in escape rooms.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, at the beginning, when we first tested out this escape room, venture with my sister, that's like the first time.
She's the one who actually dragged us into it, and we were like, really?
Oh, wow.
1 hour in a room?
Yeah, well,
what?
It can't be that fun, right? Like, especially with our sisters. But when we first, went in, I think we definitely didn't have that sort of strong communication part in mind. A lot of us were doing our own things and just trying to solve everything ourselves because, you try to prove that you're smarter than the other person. Obviously,
not only that, this one actually was a cooperative room because we were split.
Oh yeah.
So the very first game we played, we were actually split in different. We were forced to communicate, and I think because we know each other so well, we were able to give information to the other person, which we can use our personal whatchamacallit to try to get them to see what we were going for, or describe stuff.
But those types of room, you really have to like trust one another, because in your mind you're saying like, wait, do you actually don't see that piece that I'm saying? Like you start doubting, like did you really not find it? So yeah, that part definitely comes in.
It's like charades, right? Couples that play charades on the same team are usually better because they can use personal information to get them to get what they're trying to say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then
Is your level of trust better now? Is your level of trust better with each other?
Actually,
do you think it's evolved over time?
The trust is now turned into double checking. Instead, because now
trust but verify.
Yeah, but the verify is not like, oh, you don't trust me, go verify. It was more like, oh, I'm gonna go check. It's like a willingly kind of check. Like, please go check me just in case I miss something.
Yeah, I mean, this covers everything, even like looking for stuff, searching for stuff. Oh, did you check this area? Yeah, I checked it. You want to double check? And then we'll check. And, sometimes we'll actually find something that, in the area they were already looking. So, I mean, it doesn't hurt. And I actually think that it's a flip side because it actually builds trust. because you're trusting that the
Yes.
other person is, just double checking and not, trying to prove you're wrong or anything. It's more or less, let me
Yes.
give it a second glance or
Yeah.
whatnot.
And throughout this entire process, we actually learned from each other in terms of our strengths and weaknesses. So now, like for instance, if there's anything math related, obviously he still double
Not
checks me.
always.
Sometimes he still feels, oh
Not
my
always.
God, I actually solved the math puzzle like better than you this time. But we now know like what is, that something we should just pass on to the other person. Sometimes I'm just like, I'm not really interested in like a crazy chopstick like puzzles that needs me to like get things from the bottom. Like, but then he loves those. I'm like, oh, this is great. Like I have someone else who wants to do
Yours.
this. Like,
Yeah, usually the
last-
physical stuff in the room is the first thing I go to, and I'm like, oh yeah, a labyrinth. Or,
Yeah.
Yeah. But the communication part for
Yeah.
that, as you guys know, like if you have ever solved like puzzles with magnetic things in the back end and then telling people how to like, traverse
Yes.
through the maze,
Yeah.
it's definitely communication, because sometimes I'm like, I
Yeah.
forgot. if
Like
it's
I always
left
say,
and
you're right or you're left.
Right.
Yes.
That's a big one.
Isn't that fascinating? You have to adjust your perspective,
Yeah.
right?
But now I know.
Just like you do when you're communicating.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We actually, I feel like a lot of that has transferred over to like other stuff outside of escape rooms. So whenever we're trying to like, get her to, or she's trying to get me to, figure out something, it's like, oh, blah, blah, blah. It's just, I think it's a different language. It becomes a different language.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you guys ever find yourself relating to, referring to your escape room experiences? It was like when we were in that room. You need to take a left or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, like my direction is not that great. So like sometimes he's like, what do you mean? You just go southeast. I'm like, I don't know. And like I'm a real estate agent. I still don't really know what, like when people are like go into an apartment, it's like, what are we facing?
This is
like,
why I drive the clients around.
Yeah.
And we get them there.
GPS.
Yeah, let me take out my compass on my iPhone and figure this out. Yeah. But
we'll have stuff like, if we notice that we're getting a little frustrated with each other, we'll be like, okay, let's not make this a Molly's room. What, like, right, referring to an incident or something.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's interesting. I don't
Yeah.
think we have the phrase with the names of the rooms. We definitely do point out like experiences we had. It's like, oh, you don't want to be like hitting your head with a guillotine again.
Yeah. Remember when, It definitely always reflects back to escape room experiences, because I think, I probably think about it more than you do, but like that's all we think about. It's like escape rooms.
Yes. Wait, what is that meme that I've seen on like Facebook? It's like it's like a swear jar, but it says every time I mentioned escape rooms and no one asks. Yes.
Our jar is pretty much full. Like.
Yeah.
It's filled.
Yep. Absolutely. So what is your most, because, people can learn from what went wrong just as much as they can learn from what went right. What is your most memorable story that I should say you're willing to share with listeners and viewers?
For what went wrong or right, or either?
Yes, either. Your biggest lesson in communicating, and usually it's what went wrong.
I mean, just among, we've had rooms that we played publicly. Like this is like such a new thing to, foreign people who are in like international. They're like, what is that? I don't even know what a public room is. But yeah, in the US, there's a bunch of companies pre-COVID, but now it's still like, I think they're going back. Like some of them are actually going back now to public bookings as well, where we've experienced, players that are less experienced or like that just like if it's a 10-person room, they actually squeeze in 10 people. So there was like a group of like young teens that were high.
Oh wait, are we talking about experiences that were between us or
no, like
surrounding
now
us?
it's like surrounding us.
Any
go ahead.
experiences.
Tell this story. I have one of my own too. So
So there was like 8 of them, there's 2 of us. And then first thing we went in, it was like this math question like on the board. And she's, for some weird reason, this girl just ran to me and she's like, "You're Asian? Why don't you go solve that?" It was just like so like obvious. And I was like,
excuse me?
I was like, oh, so do you mean like you can't do math? But I don't Anyway, so that wasn't the point of that communication, but it was when one of the guys held the key to something. Yeah, they were definitely
he was definitely
definitely on
on another level.
Yeah,
not in a good way.
in the clouds. But he had this key that he was holding from the beginning of the game to the almost at the end. Where like almost had like 5 minutes left or something, and you're like, he's like, what do we do with this key?
And I was like, can everyone just check their pockets just in case? And the guy goes in, he goes, dude, where did this key come from? I was like, that's the key we're looking for. What are you doing? And he's like, oh, I thought it was my own key. Oh, oh no.
Wow.
And it was like, the time was just like whittling down. And I was like, give that to me. I was like, get out of here. We'll see in the corner. But yeah, that was just like, I mean, this was early on, like when we started playing.
Yeah.
And I think now, because we experienced that, if we did play with strangers and you know, in that situation, we would always just ask politely, oh, just make sure you check your pockets.
Yeah.
Make sure, you know, just to be sure. I mean, because whether they're happy or not, it's just, I think it's just a good thing to check off the list.
No, but now that when we're playing, I feel like I step back a bit and then I just let the people who are in the room do a little more. Like if they needed like some hands-on like guidance, even when I know the answer, let them, you know, try first because they're beginners and they'll feel really happy if they feel like they solved it, even though I like nudge them or give them an answer or like just, you know, the code is there and then like let them open the key lock or something. Because you know, we want to promote people to like escape rooms. And I feel like people would only do that if they successfully escaped versus saying like, oh God, I just like failed and I'd never want to go back ever again. So nowadays, like I think that also has changed the perspective of like saying like, no, I need to be the one solving everything versus saying like other people should also share the same experiences.
Yeah.
Like,
how's that translated into your daytime stuff?
Oh, like personal, I think because I'm in the service industry, it definitely has an easier transition into like making sure that people are happy. You know, like wherever you are at in terms of customer service, like it needs to be there. So when we're chatting with like game masters or owners, like our first advice to them is like, do you usually ask your team when they go in, like how many escape rooms have they play? Like, do you ask them if they want hints or they don't want hints? And now I've noticed that a lot of the companies have implemented this, you know, so that this way that is at the beginning of time so that they kind of like, you know, take that away for later on experiences, like if there could be any confusion or like people who don't want hints sometimes are the ones that need them the most. So I still feel like now they are, you know, more like geared towards like, oh, we should just please the customers versus saying like, we're going to make our rooms like 2% escape rate. And that has kind of gone away. Like a good bunch has gone away.
Most of them, which I'm happy about.
And then there's the companies that force you to pay to come back to see the rest of the game, which is very rare also. But I feel like, you know, those are the people that are more or less, you know, I guess about the money instead of like having them experience what they've created from beginning to end. But I mean, everybody has their different take on you know, how they want to operate their games. But I think what you were saying before about the game masters being able to read the room and gauge how these players are or how they work together as a team, or if they hear them calling out the right numbers, but for some reason the lock is just not unclicking, to just step in and, you know, always be there. And I think that most of the game masters are starting, well, I feel like are really, really paying attention.
Well, you have to like your job first. That's the big one. But after that, then, you know.
You can tell when they're not engaged, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, and that comes, you know, with communicating, right? Communicating on not making assumptions, right? Trying to take others' perspectives and communicate. That goes with the game masters as well. Yeah,
we love it when companies like take their game masters out on like an outing to go to another company to play and, you know, just because it's knowing the market, right? And it's also knowing what's out there. So maybe they'll take a little bit of that and implement it into their own way of operating. You know, and also, you know, it's escape rooms. Like she said, you should be playing game, so you are aware of what it is, how you would want to experience it on the other side. So,
yeah, absolutely. Oh, Jeff, what's a memorable one for you, for us?
Oh, well, oh my gosh, I just took a blank. I'm sorry. My mind has been jumping around on
We
a lot of
only
these
have like
rooms.
790 something. No, I'm kidding.
It's all, yeah, you know.
there's one in there. Come on.
Well, one of the things that we got into just early on was just getting frustrated and being able to communicate that you're getting frustrated and identifying, like, when you would get upset. Chris would, yeah, it's the triangle.
I was like, why are you doing Jay-Z?
I was like, she's going up the lot.
It's there's this thing called what is it called?
Rational
Amygdala
defensive
hijack.
continuum.
Yeah. She's the big brain of this team, but but what happens is when you get excited, your ability to reason goes down. You get more anxious. It's harder to communicate. So fairly early on, probably in the hundreds or 200s, I would get, especially if we were with other escapers that we didn't know, a random room, or with somebody that wasn't quite interested in doing the room. They were just sort of there. Yeah. But if I got upset, I didn't notice it in myself. So one of the things that Chris did was she would just had the triangle. It's like she would just sort of say, hey, the triangle. And that was her signal to me so that I could just step back and think about it. So without trying to go into a lot of talking me off the ledge, it was just a quick hand signal that she could give me to sort of help out. But
okay.
It's a tool that I teach in my classes. It's actually from a company that I coordinate with once in a while. But what it represents is when we're at the bottom of the triangle, we're cool, calm, collected, we can respond. And when we've been triggered, much like the sides of the triangle get smaller, so does our ability to respond to things around us. And we go into pure reaction mode. So I don't know if you guys have it, but we'll like flash a sign like it's time to calm down, or you need to switch gears, when one of us is getting a little pissy, for lack of a better term.
I don't think
Do you guys have something like that?
I don't know if
hers is this.
Oh yeah, I just
give
him
yeah.
pretty obvious if you don't get it.
Hey.
You can
that's
communicate a lot with your
Hey, that's the way you communicate. It can be nonverbal. It can be verbal.
We recently,
Yeah,
I think the most recent game that we played that was public was when we were on the cruise ship, right?
Yeah.
It was like a huge family.
Wow.
And they all knew each other, and then it was us. And the grandma sat down, and then there was a kid who was kind of very... I guess extroverted. He was like everywhere, touching everything. And then I don't know how many games they played, but they seemed really into it.
You were
but
into it, yeah.
All of us was definitely too many cooks in the kitchen because we didn't get out. And I think that a lot of it was partially because, the props were broken.
Yeah, like 50% of the room was broken.
And then combined with the non-communication between them and us. I think if it was just us two, we would have got out because we would have divided and conquered and used our strengths where it was needed.
I don't know. 50% of the room was broken. I still don't feel like it's
even then.
Plus the game master was not paying attention to a lot of the stuff that we were double checking him with.
Yeah.
So frustrating.
Sponsor us. Let's not badmouth them so much.
But we love the cruise ships and the food and the.
He's like,
it was amazing.
Now, was there more than one game on the ship, or was it just the one game?
Yeah.
And the other one was great. We played with two other girls. We got out with a lot of time left. It was
the set design was actually quite good.
It was very immersive.
Nice.
Better than the ones that we've done before, which feels more like a puzzle hunt. So this one is actually an escape room, but it's just a single room. It's not really like you can but there
was some tech and
they have limited resources. Like if you're on an ocean, it's so hard to get like hands-on to come on board and fix things like that. I just think that from a design perspective, they should have definitely went into like more stuff that is like harder to break or just easier for the people who are not hands-on with tech to fix it. So it might be it should go a little more basic than like harder stuff that they
also, it was a new ship. Like, it's not like, oh, it's been around for a while. The room is, so I think that it should be built to last long, because
but people who never play escape rooms, they don't really know the 2-finger rule. It's just gonna be like, I think
we were just out in Colorado and we were talking with the game master, and some kids had gone in, young teenagers, and almost immediately they started yanking so hard on these ropes in the room that it felt like they were going to pull the ceiling in, and the game masters were all jumping up.
We saw them all run.
Trying to run in. They're trying to stop them. It was like, holy cow.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
So when we go around and we do our vlog, we interview the owners, and one of the questions we always ask is, what is something that you've seen on camera while game mastering? Whether it's funny, whether it's like, oh my gosh, whether it's... And we've heard some horror stories, but we heard some creative horror stories too. Like turtles forming a pyramid, a human pyramid, to reach something at the top. And
oh my gosh.
So we've heard a lot.
Well, required communication, right? So I'm just curious, what is the wildest story that you've heard kind of in relation to communication?
People going different directions or something like that. Just
we've heard we've heard other stories of what happened to couples that have been in rooms, like divorces. One would leave the other room and just storm out, and then the other one would just continue to play on solo. Tons of proposals.
It's not all bad.
Coming together and
gender reveals. So we've heard a lot of cool stuff.
Wow.
But in terms of communication, we've heard
corporate
some
companies use it to kind of try to choose who is could be a team leader, but maybe couldn't reveal themselves as the leader type in real situations.
Or showing your skills outside the
all
office.
All of a sudden in escape rooms, they just
nice.
Yeah. So that's a good big one to kind of discover hidden talent or hidden things that people don't know about you.
The military,
a lot of
using it for building communication between the.
Nice.
Yeah.
I've heard of job interviews consisting of bringing a bunch of people through an escape room.
Amazing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Isn't that amazing?
Absolutely.
Now, one of the things that we have set aside, and it's funny, Jeff and I will ask each other when we start getting a little in an escape room, for lack of a better term. We decided what the goal of our escape rooms is relationship building. So when one of us starts getting a little pissy, like, oh, we've only got 5 minutes left, and start biting the head off the other one, the other one will say, okay, what's the goal of why we're here today? Fine, it's to build it's relationship first. And we found that has translated very well into our daily lives, right? So when you're communicating with someone else, a colleague, someone else, thinking relationship first really changes the way you communicate with them. Yeah. Have you found anything like that in your experiences?
I mean, for us, I feel like a lot of times when we're in an escape room, and when I'm always like, because I feel like he's a little impatient, especially when he's driving in New York City, but that's kind of understandable. Sometimes,
that's understandable.
Yeah, sometimes when he's driving, I'm kind of like, oh my God. This feels like the last 5 minutes of escape rooms or something. He has somewhere to go.
Trying to escape the traffic.
Somehow, somewhere So I mean, for me, I do yoga, so I would try to calm myself down in a lot of situations. And I think for escape rooms, especially in the last couple of minutes, like you said, if we don't get out, that's kind of that's kind of a sad thing on our score mark or whatever. At this point, I feel like for us, especially because we're bloggers and reviewers, our main focus is to see everything, to be able to enjoy the props, the storyline, if there's great puzzles, then I actually wouldn't mind spending a little more time on it, just to be understand the whole logistics behind it, or what the creators was trying to get us to enjoy, versus saying I just want to finish this room in 30 minutes and get out and then get that record. That record is
we've never really cared about
We don't care about the leaderboard.
A lot of the escape rooms actually don't do that, but some of them do. But they're only there for a month, so you're only there for a month.
Unless someone,
it's not like you're there forever. So
Right.
yeah, so that's the thing. Like I feel like it's really about, like you said, like if your goal here is to like enjoy, have fun, right? Like get out of reality for that hour, so you're not like in your like office or like working. This is like I went to a magical world and I transferred my entire 1 hour to that realm.
It also helps if it's a immersive room with a really great set design, because then you can really escape reality. But if it's a room that's strictly like a table filled with 100 boxes and puzzles and blocks, then that's when your mindset changes, and it's a little bit like, all right, let's divide and conquer, let's spread out, let's and then if you're struggling, let's switch, let's rotate, let's and I think one thing that I feel like whether I am getting better at it or I'm trying to get better at it, is removing myself from the situation and like just stepping back for a second and then watching what she's doing, or taking a look around the room on other things, and then coming back to what I was struggling on. Because I think that maybe that's
that
not
is
the right
a great
step.
life
I'm
lesson.
supposed to do something else first, and it's more of a process thing.
Yeah. And then one other
when you're bringing please go ahead.
I was just saying one other thing that we also kind of changed perspectives on is that previously whoever saw the puzzle were kind of like saying like, how did you do that, like in the room? But now we do it after the game. We're like, actually I'm okay, like you just tell me later kind of thing to save time, because now it's not about like, give me like 5 minutes, explain this whole process to me, I still don't get it, okay? So I don't want to get that frustration like in the room. It's like, oh, how can you not see it? But then people see different things a lot quicker. Like visually, he might see the like some visual puzzles a lot faster, and I'll be like, oh, you saw that? Okay, well I'll check it out later after the game.
Tell me later.
Yeah. So that's a new.
Now, when you're bringing, how often do you bring like friends in, and what would how do you handle them differently? Like if you're introducing a new person to an escape room, do you interact with them differently? Like if you're bringing a sibling or a friend in, how would you approach explaining the room to them, and how would you behave differently when you bring them in? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. So, I mean, it really depends on the friend and how well I know their personality. Sometimes
some of them could be, and then it's like, all right, let's.
Yeah. Sometimes I feel like they're just there to like, because they want to just have fun, like with us, but not like particular to like interest in an escape room. Or sometimes I know like they are actually pretty enjoying these puzzles, and then I wouldn't put too like hands on, like I'll let them solve things first, and then if they need help or something, I'll be like, maybe you should check out that code. It seems like it's very similar to that picture, like I'll give a little hint, and then they're like, oh, yeah, but then they solved it, and then they'll be really happy, and then I'm like, oh, that's great, 'cause then next time they'll want to come again.
Yeah, in addition to playing with like friends and family, we also play with owners, and we play with fellow enthusiasts, other reviewers. So I think it's more or less a skill set of just being able to read other people. So if you're in a room and you see the way that, so that's what I was saying before, by stepping back and kind of just looking around. So learning how other people operate and how they play is also one of the things that like I'm also trying to get better at, because then I know that, oh, this is how they like to, move. They're a leaderboard conqueror. So I know they're going to be like, oh, boom, I open this. And then next. Or they're a person that just looks around the room and they're examining how the craftsmanship of the set design or the tech, and they don't really care about the puzzles because they're a fellow builder. Yeah. So they just roam around the room and admiring
but they
it.
might solve one thing, and that's really important to solve the entire room.
Yeah.
And then we have owners that put on all the costumes and their character, and they just want to have fun. So, yeah, everybody's different. So I think just letting them be, and then, we truly love how they just, tackle puzzles in their own way, and watching them do that is also just, it's great to see that. So, yeah, we enjoy that as well.
Aw. Well,
do you find you're reading them better? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh, no. Do you find that you can read people better now that you've been doing more? I mean, do you think I mean, with us, we can walk into a room with a new group of people and just immediately identify those sorts of things. The people that want to have fun versus the people that want to do like an Easter egg hunt. They just want to run through everything. Yeah. And so for us, it's actually been a really great educational tool, because you just get to know how people behave and how they react and what they need to get what they need to get out of the room. So we've always really enjoyed just getting better at that and watching people do that.
Yeah. I think so. We definitely got better at identifying characteristics, but like it still also goes back to my personal work as well. Like I know
for her clients,
my clients, like who's serious, who's not serious at buying or purchasing right away. I know if they're just like kind of looking around or they're like ready to go. But it does take time like to do that, and I think being in this for quite a while now. I did like going on 4 years or 5 years. I don't remember.
We started 2018, so this is our fifth year.
Yeah. Wow.
We're actually late. Wow. You guys probably started before we did.
Yeah, they did.
The end of 2016.
You have 2 years a leg up on us.
Yeah. There we go. Yeah. So, well, I mean, my goodness, those of you listening or watching, now you see how much escape rooms, if you haven't done one, you have to go do one, because you see how much they've helped you learn. Now, before we get to your final piece of advice, Brandon and Cici, can you share a little bit about your products and or services, both Escape the Rumors as well as a plug for your other business, if you'd like?
Yeah. For Escape the Rumors, we try to keep our blog more on some sort of like an unbiased standpoint in terms of reviews. We just kind of want the players to decide on their own in terms of if the game is right fit for them. So most of the things that we write in reviews are more descriptive rather than saying like, oh, we really like don't like this. Because our whole goal is to promote the industry and to be able to get people to actually go try it for your first time, or like continuously going to escape rooms to kind of support their their industry, because we want to continue to play them. So better not go away.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, any advice we have, like, it's always to help contribute to make the room better. I mean, again, the owners can take it with a grain of salt, but we always do that privately. Whether it's right after we play, they'll ask us, or we'll even draft up an email with some advice and suggestions, and they could take it or leave it. It's really because we care. That you have something, you have potential for something to be better, or, something that might be flow a little bit better. And again, we played pretty much 800, we're going to be at 800 some games, but all over the world. So we've seen stuff that's in other countries, and how they're operating. So, I mean, we kind of know a little bit about what we're talking about by now.
Little bit,
just a little bit, So again,
just a little.
But that's
I mean,
that's
also another service that we provide is consulting for companies. So if they come to us with questions on puzzles, on service, set design, if there's anything, so we do go in to do that for them as well. And I think that people who want it, like the owners who are into improving, definitely do take advantage of these things, because they can better their because they're always saying like, well, how can I get to that level of an escape room where they got awards and like, be able to get on that list. And I'm always like, well, you just got to keep going, and then kind of, make your modify and do everything that like the other, because I think the other thing is like, you can't really look at and compare escape rooms the same way if the escape room is on an island that has limited resources and their budget is like
but it's not always about the money
shop. Right. But then the thing is, you can't really compare that kind of mom and pop shop to like $100,000 budget room. It's just not fair. So so it just like really depends on, first, if your puzzles make sense, like people went there, did they have fun, like did they go through the entire thing not feeling like, oh man, I wish I wanted to get out of here in like 10 minutes kind of feeling, right? Like that feeling is important to be able to like have that. So I think that is one service that we provide, just how to, puzzle flow, the set design, and then storyline, which is very important, because sometimes the storyline actually is really touching and emotional.
Yeah,
like,
there's been some games that we actually walked out teary-eyed.
Yeah.
Not so much that it was sad, it was just really
Emotional.
Yeah.
Emotional.
It was emotional. Yeah. So to learn more, people go to escapetherumors.com.
One other thing.
Any other websites?
You can follow us at Escape the Rumors on Instagram
and Facebook.
ET Rumors on Twitter.
Yeah.
YouTube is also Escape the Rumors.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I forgot to mention, we also have Behind the Masterminds, which is also a live stream that we interview owners and creators behind the scenes. So if you wanted to ever become a creator, you can also watch those and get a lot of good experienced, experts advices on how to start a tabletop business
or a puzzle hunt business.
Yeah, these type of things.
Nice.
That's also an additional thing. We used to play games with Patreons as well. We have a Patreon site, and we kind of stopped this year because the online game has now diminished so much since COVID. Everybody's going back to in person, but you never know. We might go back to that in the future. But there is a lot of online games that if you are kind of stuck at home and you don't want to go out for an in-person experience, definitely a lot of fun ones
check them out.
to play.
Nice.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you. But what's your final piece of advice for our listeners and viewers?
In terms of communications, or
anything that you want.
Life is
communications,
an escape room related.
Okay.
Related to life at an escape room.
You want to go first?
We'll put me in the hot seat. Honestly, I would say, like I was just saying earlier, just take a breather, step back, and try to, come out of your own perspective and just look at it from a broader perspective. Just, look around the room, and this goes whether you're in an escape room or just in life, and take a breather. Try to read the whole situation or read the people around you, and it only takes a minute or two, and just reassess, and then go back in.
Yeah,
I think that it helps because first of all, life is moves so fast. You never take a second to just sit down and absorb whatever time you have, and I think you should just do that, and then you might learn a thing or two. You might not, but at least you got a chance to take a breather.
Yeah. I think for me to take out, and especially when your life is so busy, you go on vacation and you're like, I need to take out 60 minutes of the whatever 5 hours that I have to go to an escape room. You must really like it, because, or else you're like, I could go eat some food and go to an excursion or something more fun, right? So you must really like this, activity, or if not, you don't even know what it is. I think regardless, you should just give it a try, because it is something that is not going to be on the list of 10 things to do when you're in a foreign country. It's not going to make it up there. But if you don't try it, you would never know how fun it is, and then you might put that on your 10 things of must do when you're in that other country in the future. Because we have done. We went to Hawaii and we never even went to the beach because the entire day we just did escape rooms. And nowadays,
we went past the beach and then
totally relate.
So nowadays, when we go to a foreign country, that's on our top of the list to do. And then if we can't find something that we want to do in escape room, then we go to our second choice, which is excursions.
There you go.
I was going to say food, but okay.
Yeah, excursions and food, that's a big one.
Well, and it's a great way to meet local people. And you go to areas of the city that you never would have as a tourist. You get to experience different places to eat and shops and people just because you're going into those areas. So I love that.
And I think from overall wise, being in this industry, we met so many amazing people that we would have never been able to meet if we were in this situation right now.
Absolutely.
The owners and the same
all of us.
Yeah.
Yes.
Same creative mindsets. It's just so hard to come a random person versus now I'm just oh, I never even met some of these owners that we're going to go to Canada to see on our tour coming up soon. By the way, you can follow us on social media for that. It's coming up on March 10th to the 18th. Oh wait, hold on. I just forgot that you were saying the show's
coming up soon.
Maybe I'll tell you about the other one, but just go to our website and you can see our future trips on there. There's a program on there that you can see. But this is definitely a great way to meet common interest people personally.
Yes.
Plus, we've heard so many amazing stories from the owners on their creativity and their process. That because you when you're in there as a player, you go in there for the hour and you're like, oh, that was fun, that was so cool. But they don't see or know how much time and effort and passion and love went into what you just experienced.
Yeah.
That's why we created our exclusive interview channel, so that we can tell those stories. And there's just so much content and so much like amazing things that we've heard.
Mm-hmm.
And we really love it. I mean, no matter where they're from, whether in Iceland in a small little
that's
shop,
another thing, guys. If you meet these people, they're going to be all over the world. So, like, in case you get lost or, like, if you need a place to stay, like, when you're traveling, really helpful. Really helpful.
Hey, remember me?
Fellow escape room industry.
We got people in Turkey. We got people, like, everywhere now in the world.
We're going to have people in Saudi Arabia. So
there you go. Oh. Well,
awesome.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Cici and Brandon. This has been amazing.
Thank you for having us.
Want to learn more about the Eanes Escapeletes, buy the book, or read the blog? Visit lifeisanescaperoom.com.